Where's
Hey,
where's where's Sean?
uh,
I'll bring you a drink.
um,
Ooh,
change this thing. Hey,
look, it was.
Clint,
Yeah,
is that is that you?
no,
Oh,
no,
nice
that's me.
shirt, nice
That's
shirt.
you, and that's
I like that
you.
shirt. It kind of looks like that.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Hey, the music hadn't started.
It hasn't. That usually means we have an interview.
That usually does,
If it does,
folks. We got look. Okay, I've been. We usually play the humble card, and yeah, last week I I bragged a little bit about some of the knowledge that we've thrown at y'all,
yeah.
but we still wouldn't call ourselves just because we've been right on some things. We wouldn't call
I mean,
ourselves
we've been
experts.
what 99, except for when I picked Arkansas football to go undefeated last year. Let's not
Yeah,
count.
we won't talk about that.
Let's not.
But we got a real expert on this week, Clint.
We did.
A
We really.
real expert, Mr. Bart Reed from Pure Sweat Skills and Drills. Uh, he's a basketball trainer. He does individual basketball training.
Sorry, I could have.
Also works with the Arkansas Wings, and
Yeah.
he has trained people like Nick Smith, Devo Davis, KK Robinson, uh, many others.
And he
Hey,
did say if he had got his hands on you in high school, you'd be in the NBA right now.
that's right. He does say that in here.
He does. He does say that.
Something like
I
that.
imagined it, but I think he said it.
Something. That's how I heard it.
Yeah,
That's how I heard
mean,
it.
we've been seen by Paul Feinbaum. So
That's right. Yeah.
he didn't even flex. We should have pulled the Feinbaum flex out on him. Like,
That's right. Yeah. Look at us. But no, Bart was nice enough to he goes on drive time, I think on Wednesdays, and I was really just impressed with him on drive time, and I thought, man, that guy would be fun to have a conversation with, and so I reached out to him, and he was more than happy to come on and talk to us, and it was a fun conversation, man. We have a great time talking to him. A lot of insight of Razorbacks, talking about what Devo and hey,
yeah,
a little
he
inside
broke the news.
information.
He broke the news here.
That's right. So you're getting it before drive time, even. So take that, Randy
I don't know. It
Rainwater.
depends on how long it takes Travis to edit this.
Oh, I'm getting it out tonight. So anyway,
Oh,
but seriously, folks, enjoy this. If you at the end of it, he gives the websites where you can get in touch with him. If you have a kid that wants to learn um,
has
basketball skills and drills
yeah, home
and
facility and
training, he's got a facility in Sheridan. He does some traveling, does some camps, things like that. So give him a chance. Great guy, man. Just easy going. Great to talk to. So enjoy. So Clint, Sean Michelle's about to start. Get ready.
John.
1, 2, 3, 4. You ever seen a lame man walk? Ever heard a dumb man talk? Never seen a blind man see? I promise you a change his name. You ever seen a cancer dead? Ever seen all the poor get fed? Ever seen a prisoner set free? I promise you a change his name. Change his name.
Artificial.
Lord, change his
All right, here we go.
Ever seen a broken heart made whole?
Everybody, it is your boy Bigger T coming at you with the Big C and Bigger T podcast, as always. And I'm here with my man Big C. How you doing, Clint?
I'm fantastic.
Well, that's enough out of you. Anyway, we got a guest today, a special guest, none other than Mr. Bart Reed. Basketball sweat skills and drills. Is that right? Am I saying that right?
Yep. So I'm with Pure Sweat. Pure Sweat.
Pure
Skills
Sweat.
and drills.
Sorry.
Yep.
Pure Sweat.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
Pure Sweat skills and drills. A trainer, personal trainer for basketball, and does AAU stuff. We'll let him tell you a little more about that. But Bart, man, he gives content to Drive Time Sports, but we got him here on the Big C Bigger T podcast also, and he's gonna hang out with us today, and we're going to talk a lot of different basketball stuff, and we're excited about it. How you doing today, Bart?
I'm good, fellas. Thank you. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Man, did you have a good weekend, Memorial Day weekend?
I did, man. Anytime you can take a couple of days off, it's a good time. Especially this time I'm so busy right now. But yeah, I did. Had a really nice Memorial Day. How about y'all?
Did too, man. Didn't do much. Clint,
No, I did. I did fire up the grill. We did some hamburgers and hot dogs, but it was small, just me and the wife. Like I didn't have people over. It's kind of nice. We took the time to myself.
there you go.
It's nice just to relax.
Get a little break.
Yeah.
Well, it's back to the grind though. Bart, now tell us a little bit about you. I know you grew up in beautiful Sheridan.
Yeah.
Do you
Lovely
have
this time of year.
a body built by Yellow Jacket Diner there? You ever partake in any milkshakes
Yeah.
there or malts?
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Sheridan's a big school district, but a really small town. People realize that are in Arkansas, but to be one of the bigger 5A schools in the state, it's a really small town. So it was even smaller when I went there. So I graduated in 1997. Was lucky enough to have a really, I would say, above average, really good high school career. Scored about 1,600 points, career, 1,000 rebounds, two-time All-State. So I was South Arkansas Player of the Year 1997. And there were 4 guys given Division I scholarships. In 1997, I was one of them.
Nice.
So lucky enough to be a part of that. I was with the Arkansas Wings, which during that time, that was the AAU team to be on. Yeah. So went on and played in college, and I had a great college career. I actually signed with the school that the coach left at the last minute. So I was a qualifier, went JC for a year, was third in the nation in scoring, averaged about 24 points in junior college. And then I had it set up where Wimp Sanderson at UALR was recruiting me. And I thought I'd just go back home. And literally 3 or 4 days before it's time to sign, Wimp gets pushed out. And thankfully, I thought, here we go again. Sidney Moncrief steps in, one of the greatest probably Razorbacks of all time, certainly the most beloved Razorback of all time.
Yeah, yeah.
And my parents are like, that's where you're going, because they were in the Hill when Coach Moncrief was up there. And so he didn't have any coaching experience, so his assistant stayed the same. So I was first signee at Sidney Moncrief and got a chance to open up Alltel Arena or Simmons Bank Arena, played the first game there. Nice. And fell in love with training there. They trained Corliss, Derek Fisher, all those guys came back and trained in the summer there with Coach Clarence Finley. And I fell in love with training, just watching it right there, and did medical device for a little bit, started training 1 or 2 kids, and 1 or 2 turned into 12, and 12 turned to 25, and 25 turned to 50, and 50 turned to 100. And so now I got merged with Pure Sweat, which is Drew Hanlon. Drew Hanlon's got 4 or 5 NBA All-Stars. He trains Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal. So I got to learn from the best.
Good
so
lineup,
that's where.
Yeah.
Well, cool.
No, that is cool. I can tell you're a native Arkansan and you grew up in Arkansas by the fact you call it Alltel Arena. They could name that Hooters Arena, Buffalo Wild Wings Arena. It's going to be Alltel Arena.
That's
you
right.
might as well just quit changing names because it's Alltel Arena.
That's
right.
Now, Bart, who were the other? You said there were 4.
That's right.
There were 4 of you that signed D1 scholarships. I guarantee you know the other 3.
Yep.
So who were they?
Yeah. So so Shane Alexander was one of them. He signed Miami of Ohio. Let's see, Jason Jennings that signed at Arkansas, the 7-footer from Bald Knob, and Brandon Davis.
Okay.
Signed at Arkansas.
From Camden.
That was it.
No, yeah, that was it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And Brandon and I were in the same conference.
We remember a couple names, and we definitely did.
Yeah.
Yep. So Mike
so
Anderson
now
was at both. So Brandon Davis. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah. No, finish that up.
Well, Brandon Davis and I battled it out. Mike Anderson was there for both games we played, and really, I felt like they were going to sign an in-state kid. That was during the time where you guys probably remember Nolan was getting a ton of pressure to sign in-state kids, and
Mm.
we had the Quincy Lewises and Chilius that had went out of state and done well, and so he was going to sign an Arkansas kid. Unfortunately, they like Brandon a little bit more than myself, but that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now you train kids full time,
I train kids full time. Been training full time for 10 years now. So
and you're still connected with AAU. Do you have an official
Yep.
role with them, or do you just
yeah,
kind of follow some of the
No,
kids
so
around?
I'm
everywhere?
no. So I've been the director of training for the Arkansas Hawks, which the Arkansas Hawks are on the Adidas 3 SSB circuit. So for anybody familiar with the circuit, there's really a couple of really big ones. And of course, Nike, EYBL, and Adidas 3 SSB are right there at the top of the list. And Under Armour has their circuit. So I've been in charge of doing all their training and player development now for, let's see, 7 years. So it's
Okay.
been a big honor to do that. Of course, there's some top flight guys that come through there, Jalen Williams, Nick Smith, Isaiah Joe. I mean, you go down the line, KK Robinson, all those guys kind of came through the Hawks program. And so I've had my footprint on a lot of the top players in the state, been really fortunate in that regard.
Now you've dropped some obviously names that our listeners are going to know right there. When you're
Sure.
working with a player like Nick Smith, Isaiah Joe, Jalen Williams, how far into it before you know, okay, this kid has something? Is it like pretty
So
much?
that's a great question, because I tell people this all the time. People don't know. I started training Nick Smith was in the 7th grade, and Nick was, I mean, nobody knew who he was, and he literally, when he started playing for the Hawks, he came off the bench for the Hawks. He was like the 7th or 8th. So when I saw him work out, I thought, man, this kid's got the tools, because as you go through a skill development, a lot of it is if they can see it and then they can do it right away, it means they can kind of feel what their body's supposed to be doing. And so Nick was one of those, I call him a skill savant. So he would pick up things really quickly. And so his 8th grade year, he busted out in a big tournament. He shot up. But when he was in the top, had just broken the top 100, I said that he would be an NBA first round draft pick and the best player statistically to come out of the state of Arkansas ever. And people are like, you're crazy. I knew it, because you can tell. It does not take long to see when these guys have something different. And first time I walked in the gym with Isaiah Joe, I'm like, he's different.
Mhm.
You could just tell. It's just one of those things, you get a feeling. The heart and soul of the game of basketball, and this is why I get most of the best players, is footwork. So footwork. If you have footwork, you can play at a high level. And some of these players have just a different level of footwork.
Mm. Now, and that's one interesting. You brought Nick Smith up, and I just want to
Yep.
prove. I'll be honest with you. I want to prove us right before the NBA proves us right here in a few weeks.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of fans out there, Arkansas fans, that are saying, "No way, he's a first round pick. He didn't show anything. He didn't look any good. No way that kid is a first round pick. He came to Arkansas, lost a couple stars." I'm hearing all these things out there. Okay. All these things are out there.
Yeah.
And I've been saying, and Clint's been agreeing with me and saying the same thing, that he's different. And we did not see a true example of what Nick Smith's going to be, and that he would be a first round pick. The NBA knows what they're doing. They're not just talking about him being up there as one of the top picks. They're not just pulling that out of the clouds. They know what they're doing. So how right are we on that?
Well, you're 100% right. And here's the thing, guys. Working with Joe Johnson. So Joe Johnson and I did a lot of work when he was trying to get back in the league when he would sign his little deal with Boston that he signed to get back in. So I was fortunate enough to be with Drew Hanlon when we would do NBA pre-draft in California, and you go out for a couple of weeks and you do these it's just basically everybody living in a house. You get to see all the top players, and he had Jason Tatum, he had Joel, and so you kind of see what a pro guy looks like and kind of that
Mhm.
speed. And when Nick got to be a junior, I thought he would be a top 5 pick even then, which he comes out number 1, number 2 player in the country. He's no doubt an NBA talent. And let me say this, not only is he a top 15 pick, he's going to be an NBA All-Star one day and a franchise type player because he can play multiple positions. He can play the 1 or the 2, and he can guard the 1 and the 2.
Mhm.
And essentially you are what you can guard in the NBA. But the NBA is a totally different game than college. And there is a lot of players. Andrew Wiggins is a guy who had a really subpar college career.
Mhm.
Some guys, for certain reasons, whether it's system injury or whatever, college is not a predictor necessarily of what you're going to do at the next level.
Yeah.
And he's got all the tools to be there. And people don't realize, guys, when you go and have an injury and you are a guard that depends so much on your legs and your knee is not 100%
Mhm.
and you've got a torn meniscus, you're talking about the elite of the elite. Every game, Nick Smith's getting the best defensive player. Their scouting report is the other team knows your game almost better than you do.
Mhm.
And so all the pressure is on you. And I'll be honest, guys, if I was Nick Smith, I wouldn't have came back
Yeah.
because it was almost a lose-lose for him. But when you don't have that many reps, you miss practice time and you're trying to heal. There's no substitute, no matter how good you are, for practice time and game reps.
Yeah.
And so, but he wanted to be a Razorback so bad. He wanted to do the right thing. So he came back. But
Mhm.
Razorback fans need to know he did not have to do that.
That's right.
He did not have to. But he's an NBA All-Star in 3 years, no doubt.
Gotcha. I agree. I agree.
So you got glimpses, when he felt right. You got glimpses.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you
Yeah.
got some glimpses of what
Yep.
you had.
Yep.
But it was obvious, he was just battling that knee all year long.
Well,
Yep.
and there was obvious issues with the team gelling.
Yes.
And when that happens, it's hard for anybody to play to their full potential on the court. I mean, it's just difficult for someone consistently whenever the team is trying to figure out how all the pieces are working together. The way I
Yeah.
talked about our team this last year was it's like in a chess game, you need all the pieces and you got all the pieces do certain moves, right? Well,
Yep.
it was like Musselman had the most talented team he's probably ever had. The problem was he had a bunch of the same type of pieces. And so
Yep.
they were trying to figure out how to work together and they just couldn't figure out how to blend that together, I think. And I think that's what you saw with some of those guys.
And guys, for a guy like that, for Nick Smith, Isaac, so the NBA guys pick so many of the small micro details. Isaiah Joe, when I was talking to teams after his freshman year, was projected to be a top 15 pick as well. I mean, I remember talking to 2 specific teams. One I won't know. Well, one of them was the Raptors, and there were 2 others that I won't name. But they were looking at him to be chosen in the top 15. The next year, he has a knee injury. Okay.
Mhm.
He drops. Everything went up statistically for him. Rebounds, assists. His points, I think, went up half a point, something like that. He dropped 2% shooting on the right side on pin downs. Now I'm talking about 2%. So he's still hovering above 40%, which we would consider a knockdown shooter.
Mhm.
And he goes now to the second round where he's being picked to the in between the 45 and 55 range. That's how small of details it can get to take these guys from the top of the first round to the bottom of the second round. I mean, it really is. And that's why you see some of these guys don't come back because it's not worth the risk. I mean, he was a better player, but had a knee injury. And so some unforeseen circumstances make him drop basically, 30 draft picks. Well, what's the difference between that? Probably about $30 million in your first contract. So Why would you go back and risk it? You know?
That's right. Well, while we're on that subject of the NBA, let's talk about a couple of the guys of the Razorbacks that are going to make a decision within the next few hours, probably, on what they're going to do. Devo Davis. I know you've trained him, right? And worked with him some.
Yep.
What do you the crystal ball, so what do you think he's going to do?
Yeah. Well, I've always felt like Devo was going to come back to school. I think he wanted to train and work on some things in his game. When you don't get invited, guys, to the combine, and there's two combines. You have the NBA combine and you have the G League combine. So when you're not invited to either one of those, it kind of puts you behind the 8 ball as far as not being certainly picked in the draft. He is at Milwaukee. He's doing a workout. There are some other guys there. They either do workouts in 3s, 1, 3, or 6. And so I've always felt like Devo's coming back. So he's a lock to come back to Arkansas. It'll be a 25th hour decision. He'll wait. The deadline's the 31st, but he's certainly coming back. He will be a Razorback next year.
Okay. What do you think of Walsh? Do you have any connection with him?
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone.
I kind of had a feeling.
Go ahead.
Well, because you heard a lot of the stuff come out. I mean, you probably heard more than I did, and I probably should just shut up and let you talk, to be honest. But I've already opened my pile. So, but you heard that he was just blowing it out in the workouts. That his workout just was phenomenal, probably better than the tape he put on at Arkansas.
Yeah. And so when you get a guy that goes late like that, so he did not declare to go to the draft early. So I always say this, he got some information. And Coach Musselman's well connected in the NBA, and this is why a lot of the top recruits want to come, guys. The number one reason, if you ask them, is, hey, Coach Musselman can get me to the NBA. He knows the talk. He knows the lingo. Jordan Walsh, someone came to him with some information that says, hey, buddy, you're missing out a chance of being drafted. So he throws his name in the hat late. But I felt like that was a sign that he was not going to come back, because that usually means there's some teams high and you're getting the information third hand that says, hey, you need to go.
Yeah.
We knew his measurables and all that he could do would shine in the combine, and it certainly did. I mean, he did extremely well. He had a rocky first game, but really bounced back and had some really great games and has a high motor and his upside. He'll develop a mid-range jump shot, guys. He's certainly going to be a talent. There's no doubt about it. So he's gone.
So he's another one that I thought that, a lot of fans complained about, throughout the season. But I really think we never saw the true potential of who he's going to be as a basketball player. I think he was trying to figure out, he sat back and was very reactionary. He didn't get in the flow of the offense. He kind of let things just come to him. It kind of, from what I saw, and he wasn't being aggressive. He was trying to figure out how to be that, because he knew he had a lot of talent around him. And you heard him talk about that in press conferences and stuff, that he was trying to figure out his role on the team to help make the team better. And so and I think once he figures that out on a team and he can use the ability he's got, I think, like you said, I think his shot's going to get better than what we saw this last year. Well, hopefully his free throws get better, but his defense is already there, and that ability. So.
Yeah, and I had a chance to coach. So I was named a CP. So I'm a CP3 camp trainer. So CP3 has 2 elite level camps, and so Jordan Walsh was on my team 2 different times when he was a 9th grader. And I said this then, and I'll say it now. He's got the highest motor, and is one of the most unselfish players that I've ever seen. And so you're right. He's he's going to let the game come to him a little bit, and certainly shot and shooting development comes with age a little bit. You get in an NBA system where you're taking tons and tons and tons of shots, it's going to come. And, it's unfair to these guys a little bit, because all the great things that Coach Musselman does, his offense can be very ISO related to like a primary ball handler, like JD Notae at times, Anthony Black at times. And so it's hard in his position to kind of get enough shots to really get in the flow of the game. But certainly, he's going to be a great NBA player, because you're right. The court opens up, and those shots are eventually going to fall for him.
Yeah. Okay, so you think so here comes Devo back, and then you think Walsh is gone. Okay.
Walsh is gone. Yep.
So are there any other of the portal guys that are still in the, because Ellis came out today, then said the Louisville transfer.
Yep.
He was in the his name was in the draft.
Yep. And then, of course, we had the Houston transfer. He was dipping his toe in the draft. He's pulled out.
Yeah. What was his name? Was that Mark?
Yes.
Tremont Mark. Okay.
Tremont Mark, which I think Mark is a prime example of what a Coach Musselman type of guy. He can defend, he gets up and down the court, and that's an NBA talent as well. But I think of the transfer guys, that was the guy that I think Coach Musselman really wanted. Yeah.
And so now, of course, the Ron Holland deal, you got any insight on that? You think he ends up being a hog, or you think he ends up with the elite or whoever it was, the G League elite or whatever?
Well, so I think it's a toss up at that. So Ignite, when you look at the G League, like, these are very calculated moves on the G League's part. So like Terrion Burgess is a guy from Benton that I work out with. So the G League and Ignite came and watched him last year in California in the Adidas Championship. They're only looking at players, guys, that they know can get drafted, that know that they have NBA type potential. So Ron Holland is a guy that, man, he's such a talented guy. So I was asked to train at the Wooten camp and be one of the coaches. So he won the one-on-one contest. And man, his motor, guys, is unbelievable. His defense is unbelievable. I felt like as soon as you had the beard issue, I thought he would immediately transfer to Arkansas. But with that G League coming into play, with the money they're kind of tossing around, man, I think it's a 50-50 toss-up. But I think Arkansas certainly feels good about their chances. Let's say this. If he goes to college, stays in college, I think he's a Razorback.
And then, of course, there's this Nelson kid from I forget his first name, but he's from was it North Dakota State, South Dakota State, one of the two.
Yep.
Another scoring guard, looks like. I watched a little highlight video of him today. He looks pretty solid, man. He's got an outside shot.
Yep.
He was getting to the basket. Now, he was getting to the basket against what looked kind of like subpar competition, you know.
Sure.
So I don't know if he'll be able to do that in SEC as much, but he may can. I don't know. But he had a good looking shot on him.
Yep. I worry. Of course, let's say this. So if Holland doesn't come, I would say this. I don't, because I know what they're recruiting, and I talked to Coach Muss about this not too long ago, because, you know, we had a live period where he's going to the EYBL and then he was going to Adidas 3SSB and checking out players, and most of them were guards. And so my worry, if you don't get Holland, you lose Walsh. And he gets so many guards. I don't know. Do you really want another guard, especially with what he's recruiting for the 2024 class? But at the same time, guys, you know, his team is turning over so much, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, that probably, I guess you need to stack up as many guards, but I could see them going after a big before I see them going after Nelson. That's just my hunch.
Yeah.
So
but certainly guy we were looking at.
Yeah. So obviously you hinted at the turnover on Musselman's team. You know, you look at, we had the prize recruiting class last year, what, number 2 in the country?
Yep.
And you're looking now, you have one of those guys left on the roster. Pinion.
It's crazy.
But how much stock should we still put in, you know, the modern day, call it NCAA? how much stock should we put into high school recruiting anymore? Because it seems like most of your team, most of your roster, especially at Arkansas, is made up from the portal.
Well, it's unfortunate, guys, because we have, and a lot of guys that I'm training, because when you have 3,000 players in the transfer portal, why would you not go get a ready-made guy versus getting a guy in high school? So you almost have to be like one of those guys, like a top 50, top 60, top 70 type player to even get offered a Division I scholarship. So in the state of Arkansas, for girls and boys, gentlemen, basketball has never been better. I mean, it's unbelievable how talented it is out there. Just go watch any high school game and you have got 1 to 2 college players on the court at any given time. And it's made it really, really tough. And, Cam Hunter at UCA was an ASUN. He was an ASUN freshman of the year, played at Bryant. I've trained Cam since he was 7th grade. There was a point where UCA wants him to go to prep school because they don't think he's ready because they can get other people from the transfer portal. I trained North Little Rock. DJ Smith was the starting point guard for UALR. He did not have an offer after his senior year. So winning the state championship, being all first team, 23 points a game, did not have a Division I or Division II offer. It's unbelievable. And so it makes it really hard. So I think we should be putting more stock into high school recruiting. I hope this works itself out. I don't know if it will, but when they gave the extra years because of COVID, guys, and you don't do anything at the high school to try to overcompensate for that, we've got Division I type players that are going Division III, NAIA Division II. It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah. Well, because, Arkansas fans, and I'm just going to bring it up, Darian Ford, for example.
Yeah.
Gajillion time Arkansas player of the year.
Yep.
Us as Arkansas fans, we want to see that guy. If he ain't playing right now, we want to see him get in the game and develop and see him build by the time you see year, be salty. Now, you know what? If you want to see him, you better have ESPN Plus because, he's playing for A-State.
Yeah.
Do you think the portal now is it become a good thing or a bad thing for schools like A-State and Euler, Little Rock? Because you've got one of the Mitchell twins committed to Euler.
Yep.
I don't care if it's Little Rock, it's Euler. Just get over it.
Yeah.
You're Euler.
Sure. Yeah, that's right.
And you played there, so I'm sorry if I'm
Yes, no, it absolutely. It's
I'm
ULR.
gonna call it Euler. It's all Tellerina and Euler, okay? So KK, I believe Travis, you were telling me today KK Robinson committed to
KK Robinson. Yeah.
So
another one you train.
Is it good for is it good for those schools or bad? Because now if you get there and let's say KK blows up and does what KK could do, the odds are he ain't gonna be there next year. But you can get a good year out. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm torn because being a former player, I have to be pro player and all their rights and stuff. But guys, let's just say this. The reason I went to junior college was because I had a coach that signed me, knowingly got canned, and from what I was told, knew he was getting fired, but felt like signing the best players. It was at North Texas, Tim Jankovich, who ended up coaching at SMU. He thought maybe signing players would save his job. I could not get out of that because players sign for coaches. They don't sign to universities, contrary to what people think. They sign specific to coaches. So I had to sit out. So I thought, well, I'm a qualifier. I'm not going to sit out. I want to go play. And so to go from where we are now, where you can just transfer just because, I can't really get behind that, but I think it helps. I think it helps places like mid-majors, UALR, ASU. What I think where it hurts the process is you have certain of the top tier Power 5 programs that are basically just using this as a churn and burn tool. And if that's the model they want to go to, that's fine. But when you start ranking players in the transfer portal and you're given a blueprint of how good, it's almost like let's just stop calling it amateurism in college sports and let's just call it, hey, you're with the NIL, you're a hired gun. You're a professional, basically a professional athlete, because that's really what it's turned down to. Justice Hill's a guy I've trained for a long time. Justice is going to his 5th school. So that's a lot of different places to bounce around to, no matter how you're looking at it.
Where's Justice? Where I haven't heard. I can Google it, but where's Justice going now?
So let's see. So Justice is, oh gosh, if you didn't ask, I could have told you. He is going to well, that sounds bad.
As
It's
soon as we finish this podcast and I hit stop record, you're gonna be like, oh
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm sitting there trying to think. Because see, DJ Smith is go. Well, see, Cam Hunter got in the portal and he came back, and so I'm getting so many players that are bouncing around and going. It's hard to keep up, but I'll think of it.
I got you.
Well, and I think what's happening, Bart, is a coach like Musselman or any D1, high D1 coach. And me and you talked on the phone the other day, and one of the things we talked about was the limited time that coaches have to train players to do the things that you do with players, to work on footwork and ball handling and all the different just individual skills and drills that you're able to work with them on. They're limited in that kind of thing. And so what they do is they go to the portal, they get a kid that got that at a smaller school, when that was, I heard someone on Drive Time, was griping because they said, well, why can't Darrell Walker keep players?
Yeah.
Well, because Darrell Walker's training players up, and then they're going to Arkansas like Kamani Johnson. They're going to Kansas State like Noel. And those coaches are reaping the benefit of the training he's doing. And that's happening. That's not just happening to him. That's happening to small colleges everywhere now. And every now and then, like what's happened this week, you get some guys like KK and Mitchell that'll come down to your level that, didn't work out at the bigger schools. But what's happening is, I always thought of a team, Bart, if I was forming a team, you want to have your older guys that's where your leadership comes from. That's your guys that know what the coach wants, that have the tradition of being there for, 3 or 4 years. They understand what the team concepts are, what the team goals are. You have your another third of your players is like they're the guys that are, maybe been there a year or so, but they're they're the ones you're forming. They're the next to take that flag, like those older ones. And then you got your new guys, right? And then your new guys may be your studs. You may have some freshmen that are studs, but you got those older guys that have been there, that are those leaders that'll help keep those younger guys in line. They help them to understand what, say for Arkansas, what being a Razorback's all about, or if it's ULR, for the Trojans, what being a Trojan's all about. They're the ones that are been there, the voice of the coach in the locker room and on the court. That's not the way these teams are formed anymore. That's not the way they're formed. You don't have, and that's one of the things I saw in Arkansas this last year was a team looking for a leader, and no one really knew who to look to.
Exactly right, because the alpha dog on that team was Nick Smith, and Nick puts off an alpha dog mentality immediately. As soon as he walks in the gym, you could feel it. But listen, guys, and I think, and we got beat by, Mississippi State beat us in an upset. But if you looked at their roster, they kind of had the opposite. I think they had 2 or 3 guys that were 24 years old. Well, doesn't matter how good you are. As you compare a 24-year-old senior, a grad transfer, to an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
You can't compare that, guys. Not
yeah.
Unless you're the exception to the rule, like a 5-star that's an elite level guy. Man, it's hard to compete against that. And that's why I think you see a lot of parity in college basketball right now, because the teams that do have a model where they're keeping players for 4 years, even 3 years is a tenured type deal, like Miami. Miami was a prime example. Jim Larinaga has done a great job of keeping guys. And so he benefited because he's had guys in his system 3 to 4 years, but that's not built that way. And you could see now that dynamic has changed. This is why Coach Calipari, I give him 1 more year, guys. He's on the hot seat because the churn and burn that is happening now is in the transfer portal, and he's behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
And he's not getting the players he used to get. And so Kentucky's underperforming because going to the NCAA tournament is not going to get it at Kentucky.
Yeah. You're right.
So looking back at the past, you grew up like us, an Arkansas Razorback fan. What player from the past that'd be in a recent memory? I say from the Lee Mayberry, Oliver Miller time on. Would you go back and put on this past team this last year? You could this guy, if I could put him on this team.
Woo, that's a tough one because I would go either two players. I would go with Mayberry or I'd go with Corey Beck. And I say that because we just talked about it. Leadership. And now listen, I don't know if it much matters with UConn as well as they were playing guys, because that team right there, we look like a junior high team playing a high school team because they had some men and they were crashing the boards and they just made us look really small at times. But a Corey Beck or Lee Mayberry type of guy, and I would probably lean a little bit more to Lee Mayberry because in the end, we needed leadership. We also needed somebody that can knock down a deep three.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
and Corey Beck's my favorite Hog of all time, but
yeah. And listen, it's hard, and it because he's one of mine too. So that's a hard choice to make. But I say this from skill development: the holy grail is shooting the basketball for skill development. It is, it was, it always will be, guys. And it's getting fewer and fewer. When you see players come in the gym that can really knock down shots, it's getting harder and harder to find, even though we're shooting more threes now than we've ever shot in the game before.
Yeah. Well, and here, and we've kind of talked about this, but this is the discussion Clint and I had after the Darian Ford, after he transferred.
Yep.
Was what we're seeing with the transfer portal, what we're seeing at Arkansas with the high turnover. Because we got to remember, there's, yes, it's happening everywhere, but it's not happening in the high percentage the way Musselman's doing it.
Yeah.
Look at the teams that made the Final Four. They had transfer portal guys, but that mix I talked about earlier, they were a little, they were a little better in that mix.
Yes. Balance.
They had some guys that had been with the coach for a while. Even if they transferred in after their freshman year, they had been there for a couple of years. And so they knew, even Noel at Kansas State, he had been there for a little while. So he had, they had a good run, but part of it was because he had been there with the coach for a while and he was able to be a leader and some of those other guys. So is what Musselman's doing. And look, and we're not I want to say this. I think Eric Musselman and Beard are the two best coaches in college basketball. Okay.
I agree.
I'd rather have them more than any other coach in college basketball. So I'm not griping about Eric Musselman at all. What I'm asking though is this model, is it going to be sustainable? For a couple of reasons, not just what the product on the court, but I think in keeping fan engagement.
Yeah.
Because in the way this turnover is happening, as fans, we don't get to know players. Are we going to, look.
That's right.
I love Nick Smith and I love he chose to be a Razorback. But what connection is he going to have to Arkansas?
Yeah.
He'll have some. I think Moses Moody's going to end up having some. Arkansas fans still root for him, and he was just here 1 year. But some of these portal guys that come, or even more, Ricky Council.
Yep.
Is he going to be a guy that Arkansas fans look back and as we're talking about like Lee Mayberry and Corey Beck and Oliver Miller and some of those, and we're like, man, remember when Ricky Council played?
Right.
Yeah.
Those days are gone, brother. And
it's going to change. It's going to change fandom.
It is. And so the question's a great one. I will say this: it's sustainable because Eric Musselman is a genius as it relates to analytics, breaking down film, and really understanding team dynamics. So if you were to look at the NBA, like being with Drew Hanlon, like we use Synergy a lot. So Synergy would be huddle. You guys have all heard of huddle. Synergy would be huddle on steroids times 25,000. So they're doing with Clay Mosier was one of his assistants. Clay Mosier came from the Lakers and did analytics for the Lakers. So Coach Musselman's looking at Second Spectrum, which is basketball software that some people haven't even heard of. So he's looking at predictive analytics. So he knows exactly to the T. He has many scouting reports upon many scouting reports. So if you'll watch them, guys, and close out on defense, is why we're so good on defense. He knows exactly how to close out specifically on each individual player. Forget like just a generic team plan. They're dialed down to that level. He is micro details. So it's sustainable because of that. And I think he is a really freaky talent in terms of finding talent and kind of digging through the numbers, and the transfer portal has allowed him to do that. But I don't know if that's going to get him necessarily the national championship. I think it'll get him close, but I still think to win the national championship, team chemistry is a real thing, guys. There's not a statistical category for it, but it is a real thing. And so is playing for each other and all that stuff. So it's a sustainable model, but I promise you this much. I don't think with the way that Coach Musselman plays, and I have a lot of respect for Coach Muss, he's hard on players, he's hard on assistants. I don't know if players can stay that long, and especially the players that he's getting, because these guys are going to be looking to get to the NBA. So I just think it's going to be a turn and burn type of mentality, but it's going to be successful, guys. I'm telling you, he's going to win. He's going to keep winning. No doubt.
Well, and I see everything you're saying there. And I think up until this last year, the team chemistry thing, he's done a great job of building the team chemistry and up until this past season. To me, that was the biggest weakness, because and I guess it was more frustrating because you looked out there, we had Kamani Johnson on the podcast, and I asked Kamani, I said, okay, you've been there now. This is your third year. I said, even without Brazile and Nick Smith, would you say this is the most talented team you've been on since you've been there? And he said, oh, by far. And to me, that was the frustrating part. Is it was the most the most talent, but like you said, the chemistry, and I think that was his challenge this year, was getting all those pieces to work together like they needed to. And it looks like, to me, to be honest with you, I have hope in that the guys I see and he's bringing in, I think he's got a lot more pieces.
He does.
They don't look the same.
And people forget, the one equalizer that could have helped us against UConn is Trayvon Brazile. And I said this because, Bill Ingram runs and owns the Hawks, and, he had a great relationship with the ex-Mizzou coach. And so I really knew that Trayvon Brazile was one of those guys that kind of played out of position for Mizzou. They had him stuck at a 5 and he stayed under the basket, but I knew he had that chance to step out away from the basket, even hit the 3. So if he's on that team and healthy, and of course you can't do these what ifs, but I won't even say if Nick Smith was healthy, but if Trayvon Brazile is there, this potentially is a national championship type of team, because I think they get a much better seed. That's number one. But a guy like that, guys, is hard to replace. In fact, we could be talking about him as the number 1 overall pick next year. He's that talented. Well,
and possibly, from what I understand and just hearing talk, he's got a lot of leadership skills.
Yes. So
there could have been some of your coach on the court, your coach's voice on the court, that you crave, the Jimmy Witt,
Yep.
Mason Jones, the guys that kind of the coach's voice out there on the court. And I
Yep.
think he could have been that too. So I agree with you. If he would have played, it might have been a different. And I'm excited about this year because I think we're going to see some great things out of him. I think he's older. He got to sit out and watch that last year, and
yep.
And
if you're a Corey Beck fan, I think we have Corey Beck Jr. coming. Layden Blocker is a guy that I've spent a lot of time with in the gym. He, started training Layden when he was 6th grade. Layden has got a high motor, an extremely high motor. And I think the one thing that we've missed in the last couple of years, because guys, JD Notae was a scorer that we gave the ball to that became a primary ball handler. Let's don't mistake it. He was a volume shooter, and Coach Musselman put him in high pick and roll situations and played a lot of isolation basketball. It was a toss up when Nick Smith was there. Who's going to bring the ball up? Nick Smith, Anthony Black. So, and that's a credit to their talent. They can play their position. We haven't had a true point guard in a long time. I mean, but true point guard. And so Layden Blocker is that guy, and he's that good. And his ability to get up and down the court and defend is Corey Beck-esque. And so this is a guy that can really change that dynamic because he is a true point guard.
I like to hear that. Now, what about fall?
So interesting. I've had a chance. When you look at him, it's a little bit like Holland and a lot of these guys. He's really tall and really thin. So Bayfall is one of those guys where one of the services actually had him drop a star, I think, and then when you accumulate all this stuff in, it doesn't matter. He's really good. He's one guy that when I look at the mix, I just don't know where he fits in because he's so slight. He's so small. And so when you're 6'9", 6'10", 195, 200 pounds, guys, that's thin.
Yeah.
And so I've seen him get pushed around quite a bit. And so when you look at going to the SEC, which I think is, if people don't say it's the best Power 5 league in terms of basketball, it's certainly the most physical, in my opinion. He needs to put on some muscle, and he needs to get stronger, and needs to get stronger in a hurry. So I think he's the one guy that I could see with the mix that could get lost in the shuffle a little bit. Doesn't mean he can't help, but I think he's a guy that I have a big question mark about.
Well, if you have any connections with him, then let him know that the Big C and Bigger T, we also serve as weight gaining coaches.
Yeah.
So, we offer our services to these guys, that need to, put on some pounds, because there's not a lot we know about sports, but we know that.
Well, hey, these guys, listen, we got pushed around at the end. And so, when I played, you had the hand check rule, and I try to tell these young kids, you could start with 2 hands on. Now you put 2 hands as an automatic foul. So putting on weight, putting on muscle is really, really important. And listen, Mitchell got pushed around a lot in the UConn game, just the physicality of it. So you really need to be where you can get to a point. That's why I love Honor Boateng in a guard. He's 6'5", he's 208 pounds, 210 pounds. And he probably hadn't really even touched a weight, honestly. But that's a guy that can be 6'5", 6'6", 220 and manhandle people. So I like physicality, and I like players that put on weight and come in. I mean, Layden Blocker, 6'2", 185 pounds. That's a big physical guard. That's what I like to see.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And these guys, hopefully they'll get them in a weight program, get them boosted up a little bit.
Yeah, but no, just let them know we'll take them to the Waffle House. We'll get them.
That's right.
Come on the podcast.
Right.
We'll pay you some NIL money, and then we'll take you to the Waffle House. We'll get all you can eat.
That's right.
Yep.
We'll show you the magic of the Waffle House patty melt and what it can do for you. Change your life.
That's right.
You mentioned the way that Musselman kind of breaks down film. And how he watches, players on film. It's just the way is. Who are some of the other coaches that you've dealt with that you're just like, you see the way their mind works, and you're like, wow.
Well, so I'll say this. So Chris Beard, because we were just talking about that. Chris Beard is a genius. There's no doubt that guy is a genius. I think the way he looks at film, breaks down film, I think is unbelievable. And if you look at coaches that I like, so Bruce Pearl's not so much a film guy, but is such a player relationship guy. And Wes Flanagan has been over there. Al Flanagan was a guy that I trained that was part of the Hawks too. And he does a great job in terms of just relationship building, and they all watch film. Don't take it that way, but I think the SEC, the main difference, because we used to talk about SEC dominance in football, guys. Basketball has gotten great in the SEC because the coaches have gotten great.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's the bottom line. All these guys are high level coaches. But certainly, I mean, Coach Hurley at UConn is another guy that really is analytics driven, and the numbers are there. And analytics coming into basketball, we're a little bit behind. They've been playing money ball and doing the baseball thing for a long time. Now you're looking at all these different really plus minus that can tell your overall value on the court. And I think that's why, because to some frustration, Coach Musselman doesn't substitute outside of his traditional rotation, because really coaches kind of fall into who they trust, and that he knows with those guys in particular matchups defensively, he can win or make games extremely close. But I'll tell you another genius, guys. Nate Oates at Alabama is a genius. Now that guy,
it pains me to hear you say that.
Yeah,
I know, but he can flat coach, buddy. He can do it. In fact, if a little piece of information, if Nick Smith, well, I don't want to get myself in trouble. If Nate Oates tells Nick Smith that he's a guaranteed starter, Nick Smith probably goes to Alabama and does not come to Arkansas. Because, listen, there was that type of relationship. Nick Smith loved Nate Oates that much. And you could see his guys really respond to him. And he's a guy that's doing things a little different. He doesn't turn and burn in the transfer portal like that, but is having a bunch of success. So
if that would have happened, the hatred of Nate Oates in the state of Arkansas,
for sure,
would have been unparalleled.
that's right.
Like,
absolutely,
mildly dislike Calipari for taking Malik Monk.
Yes,
Nick Smith from us, we would have been downright spicy.
Yep. But it's funny to say that Calipari right now might be, when you look at it, Rick Barnes in Tennessee, guys, is it funny to say that Calipari might be the most unfeared coach that we play?
Yeah.
And this, and that's I love Coach Cal, man. I'm totally moved by his 30 on 30 is one of the greatest things I've ever seen, the way he recruits and stuff. But as you're looking at the SEC, it's just loaded up with coaches. I mean, Rick Barnes is getting grown men. He's got talented, tough, physical teams. Bruce Pearl, all these guys. Nate Oates, man, it's just and with Beard being at Ole Miss, woo.
Yeah.
So when we asked this on the podcast, me and Travis, we sometimes we have what I just call jibber jabber podcast, but we just babble on, and we hope we make it an hour. But do you think Calipari, for who he's had on campus, has underachieved as a coach? Because every year you look at the recruiting rankings, Kentucky's at 1 or 2, probably no worse than 4 or 5. But so they're recruiting in the top 5 every year, and he has 1 national title to show for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll say this: Coach Cal he's recruited the talent. Where he has underperformed, he's not changed. He's not changed his offensive philosophy, and he's not changed his defensive philosophy very much. And so when you look at it, he's getting players. He is absolutely adamantly stuck to that dribble drive offense. And I know this for a fact because at CP3 camp, we've got their trainers from all over, and I know several of them have deep Kentucky ties. He just refuses to change and do different things. And listen, dribble drive's great, but you can't do the same offense for 15 or 20 years. People catch on.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting new wrinkles in, then you're going to struggle. So he's getting enough players to win. His, I would call pregame preparation, guys, he's got GAs are breaking down film. It's not even sometimes assistant coaches. So that's where he's not failing, but that's where he's not. I think he's underperforming.
Oh, yeah.
He's getting the players. He's
Yeah.
just
Oh,
not
100%.
he's not doing the X's and O's right. I think, and that was a little bit of what hurt Mike Anderson, I think, quite a bit, is he just wasn't doing the X's and O's part of the game, and he just wasn't getting the players Calipari was getting. But a little
Yeah.
bit of it, they're kind of doing the same thing, I think.
That happens to a lot of coaches, no matter what sport. Football, you see the same type of thing where guys they get stuck in their way. I'm going to run this offense I'm known
That's
by, and that's it. And the game passes them up, and
Yep,
then people catch up. Because
that's right.
because as Cal's ran that offense, he's been going against some great coaches that have been practicing defenses to stop it.
That's right. That's
You know,
right.
And then
And-
once one figures it out, there's game film, and all the rest of them are going to have that game film to figure out how to do it.
Well,
That's
Mike Anderson, Roy Williams was a great example, and I think Cal. Their coaching is done before the game. They're not going to make a lot of in-game adjustments. You see, a lot of their coaching is done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you've got a game where the Golden State Warriors will pass up an open layup for a corner three, guys, the game is unrecognizable from what it was. I mean, it's unrecognizable.
Oh yeah.
And so when we were playing, it was taught, you guys know, like, don't get in the corner, don't take a corner. It's the worst shot in basketball. Now everybody's like, get to the corner so you should take a corner three.
Yeah.
The game has changed so much. And I think that's where like myself for skill development, when I came in to help North Little Rock, Coach Rice is a legend. And Coach Rice has won state championships. And his whole thing was, hey, we need to implement some new things. We need to put some new things in. We need to do some stuff. We need some ball screen reads. We need this. We need that. And so when the game has changed so much, where I watched Dallas and Memphis play, there were 27 three-point shots taken before the first layup was taken in the game. Guys, that's unbelievable to think about. But that's where we are, and everything trickles down. Once it starts in the NBA, it's coming down to the high school level.
Well, and you go to high school games and watch kids warming up. Kids warming up don't take any shots inside 3-point line.
Yep.
In high school game.
Absolutely. And mid-range is forgotten. Mid-range is forgotten about. And they'll say, coaches will say, I don't like mid-range shots. Well, that's fine. Listen, if you're the Houston Rockets or Oklahoma City Thunder, that's cool. In high school and junior high, you better take that mid-range shot because shooting's not that. I mean, it's below 20% in a lot of ways. So mid-range is almost the forgotten art. It's unfortunate. I teach it, and I think it's still a great thing, but it's threes or layups now.
Yeah, for sure.
So now you do skill development. When my daughter played AU, all that, I take her to skills and drills coach, and her AU coaches got us into that. What are some of your favorite drills to do with your players?
So it's funny. So
who you're working with?
Well, so I customize all my workouts. So this might sound like a knock to other trainers. So I don't do cones, and I don't do 2 balls. So my thing's really clear. If you don't do it in the game, we're not going to do it in practice. And so I look at it from an individual standpoint, and I break down film, and each workout for me is customized for the player. And I'll be honest, I don't take a lot of young kids. And now I had to break that rule a little bit because my son's a 6th grader and he can flat get after it, but he's got friends. So I've kind of had to take some younger players, but usually it was when you got junior high age and you were a real serious player, a lot of them came my way. So it's really built upon the player itself, but I am a big finishing person. I think if you can finish, and there are a bunch of ways to finish, if you can learn to finish through contact with the way the game is set up today, you could be extremely successful. But you'll look at it, guys, really, you want to be a great finisher, look at how few shots teams will take inside the lane.
Oh,
High
yeah.
school, still, there's a large percentage. Most of those shots, besides three, are right in the paint. And we've seen that with teams with Arkansas. We've missed a ton of layups or in and around the basket. And that's on every level. So I'm a big finishing person. I teach my kids know how to finish, and they know how to shoot the basketball.
I wish
think
you'd
I've got
been
the best
around.
shooter.
I wish you'd been around when we were kids, because Travis had a heck of a meat hook. I mean,
That's right.
he
That's
had,
right.
and you couldn't. I'd try to block it, and like I think me
That's
and him
right.
one on one probably 2,000 times, and I've won twice.
Yeah.
Because the hook shot's that good, right?
The hook
The
shot,
shot is
baby.
that
You
good.
can't
If
handle the
he would
hook.
have had you to work with, this fat man would have been in the NBA.
That's right. No one
Listen,
could, because I mean, when you're as wide as I am too, and you got the hook, there's no way. I didn't even have to jump.
But see, and I spend my time telling these kids in the lane. So you think about a hook shot. I tell them, ball your body, man. And
Yeah.
if you can shoot in that progression, if you keep the ball outside of your body and your body's between the man, you have a high likelihood in the lane of making that shot or getting fouled.
Plus,
So
I knew how to
Definitely
use
got
that.
fouled.
I knew how to use that window too.
that's
I
exactly
use
right.
that backboard,
And that's
man.
a forgotten art. I can promise you that much.
Well, and
I
that
will
helps you.
They don't like the backboard.
That helps you get over the taller player because you're shooting it at a higher arc. So if a guy's taller than you,
Absolutely.
of course, I learned to play basketball when I was like 10 years old, and my neighbor kid was like 6'2". And so the only shots I could get off on him was a hook shot and a turnaround jumper.
That's right.
That was it.
Well,
And so that's all I could shoot. Like when I was in high school, I couldn't shoot a straight up shot to save my life. I could shoot better from the three with a hook shot.
well, one of the coolest things they've got now for skill development, they have the backboards that are color coded on the spots. So you learn how to spin the ball off the backboard. But I say that's the difference between boys and girls. And I have a daughter; she's a freshman. She'll be a sophomore. She started for varsity for Sheridan, was a heck of a player. She's a Power 5 type player. The difference between her and my son is my son will sit out on a goal and spin the ball off the backboard and work on finishing, because boys are a little bit more creative. And so girls tend to not finish that well because that's not how their brain works necessarily, because boys will go out there and they're okay with missing shots. A lot of girls are perfectionists, and I say that affectionately, but going out and missing layups in practice is how you make shots in games. I promise you.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Bart, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you if they want to get some work. Do you take new clients? Are you looking for new people to train and things like that? If anybody's got a kid out there or something.
Yep. So the summertime sure opens up a lot of opportunities to train. So if you look it up, so we have a private facility here in Sheridan. It's called HoopFi. So you can go to hoopfiacademy.com, or you can go to the Bart Reed at Twitter, or Bart Reed at Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find. There's not very many Barts out there, but certainly we have an app where you can schedule times. You schedule to come in. We've got a private facility. It's got 4 goals. We have a shooting gun. We have Vertimax. So it's a really nice facility. And I spend a lot of time traveling as well. So, if there's certainly anybody interested, those are the best ways to find me. And it's, I'm part of Pure Sweat Basketball, so you can always go to puresweat.com and find me as well.
Okay. Well, man, we could sit here and talk basketball all day, but we're running past our time limit. So, man, we appreciate you big time. Yeah, man. And
I hope you have me back. I really enjoyed it.
Man, we try to just come across as 2 dudes having a conversation with you.
That's right.
I love it, man.
So that's we don't claim. Look, our goal in this thing. I've got 2 goals. Number 1, I want to get canceled at some point. I want to get big enough that I can't get. Which guys with my best friend since grade, because it's not going to be that hard.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
He's been kicked out of like every group he's been in on Facebook.
yeah, like
So
I
it's like, yeah.
I love to go on like the Razorback Nation and stuff after Arkansas has lost a football game.
Oh yeah.
Just start correcting grammatical errors. It's just that's the kind of thing that brings me joy. It's probably because I hurt so much from the Razorbacks losing. I'm like, I'm gonna go kick somebody and they're spelling.
Yeah.
Sure.
And also,
Yeah.
we want to get press passes at some point to something.
That's
And
right.
I don't care if it's softball, volleyball,
It's something.
intramural,
Arkansas hockey club game,
yeah,
team
something,
game,
yes.
something. We don't care. We
Something
just,
like I will tell them like Hunter Yurchek personally gave me this press pass
that's right.
to intramurals.
Yeah. I want to sit. I want to sit next to Bob Holt at a press conference, and I want to ask him: do you ever listen to his press conferences, to the Razorback press conferences?
Not a ton. Not a ton.
Okay. Well, Bob Holt's great, but I watch him on YouTube. But he always asks. He'll say, "You so you hit a home run in the fifth inning. What'd you think about that?" What'd you think about that? What kind of question is that?
Yeah.
What'd you think about
Not
I
very thoughtful.
Thought it was good.
Well, and I've been giving Travis crap because we've had 3 baseball players on this year, and he asked every one of them like, "Wait, what's your plans after baseball?" And they're like, "What do you mean?"
Yeah. I don't have plans. You
Like,
know
what are
how
talking about?
athletes
Quit
are.
asking them that, Travis.
They don't have plans after.
You're like, I don't. It's like this is going to work out, obviously.
Well, I thought my question was bad, and then I was watching a Colorado. You know, Deion Sanders, one of his players, that Travis Hunter, the real good receiver that he got from the Jackson State, and then went to Colorado with him. And they asked him, said, and this was like spring practice. So they've had like 2 months in class, okay, that they were supposed to have gone to class by now. And they asked him, said, so what's it like going across campus? Or people seem excited? And Travis Hunter goes, I haven't been to campus yet.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, because I posted something on like Facebook about, it was the Ball father, was it LeVar Ball? Was like,
yeah.
He's like, man, go play in Greece for a year. Bronny don't need to be going to civics.
That's
like,
right.
and somebody's like, you really think Bronny's going to civics?
That's right, yeah.
That's what I mean. Some of these guys will call and say, Nick or Anthony Black, and they're like, what about their education? I'm like, you can go online and get an education now. Like that's something,
And hey, they may decide to do it after they finish, or whatever, or after, like some of the guys, but man, there's the money route is, in basketball, there's so many ways to make money nowadays. Even, if Walsh doesn't get drafted, he's still going to make money. He's still going to make a good living next year. Yeah. And even without NIL money, everybody thinks, well, he's going to miss out on all that NIL money. Well, he's going to have other ways to go make money.
But just making the league, like I trained Daryl Macon we got ready for training camp with the Mavericks. And us, like I told him, man, the league minimum's $900,000, guys. Yeah. So if you sit the bench on the league minimum, travel around first class and make a meal, it's pretty good.
It's not bad. As long as you're not a dummy and try to spend
it. Not a bad living at all.
Yeah, man.
That's right. That's right. I think Joe Johnson and I, because Joe and I were big buddies, I go out there. So I think Joe made $320 million over his NBA career, or $240 million, something like that. Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
That's a decent. Yeah, and he doesn't have to have that college degree anymore. yeah.
No.
What's that?
Hey, listen. Remember, people were saying, is he? That was another one in college. Is Joe that good to make but guys didn't see what he could do being a 6'7", 6'8" guard. That was another one that kind of snuck up on, like, they thought he had a great career, but they didn't see him as an NBA franchise type player. And an
Well, and they
all-star.
saw him for such a short time. They didn't also see what happens year after year when he's there.
Yeah.
When he's dedicated to
Yeah.
nothing but. He's not distracted by anything else. He's used to it. Basketball's his job. You know, I mean, yeah, you're right. And I think the same with Nick Smith, the same with, you know, the Walsh, with these other guys. When they get a chance, they're gonna show that talent. There's a reason the NBA teams are after them. There's a reason. Well, Bart, man,
That's
seriously,
exactly right.
appreciate
They know
you.
exactly. Thanks, guys. Hey,
Appreciate
I
you,
enjoyed it.
folks.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks, Clint.
Yep.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on. I really did. I enjoyed it a bunch.
And,
Absolutely.
folks, like and share, subscribe, all those different things. Let us know what you think. Write reviews, comment on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram. What else are we on? Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook. You got your Farmers Only account.
Yeah, my Farmers Only account. Still waiting for Miss right there.
FarmersOnly.com.
But anyway, y'all have a great week. Enjoy
Bye,
the summer
everybody.
months. Enjoy June. Be blessed out there. Peace out.
Sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come. Sweat, work, filthy, dirt, harvest, hurt, kingdom come. Listen, that's why I sweat when I work. My hands get filthy down in this dirt. Won't see no harvest till I hurt. Crying your kingdom come. Listen, I wake up in the morning, I bow my head to pray. Mama told me if I don't, ain't nothing gonna change. These prayers breaking up hard ground so I can sow the seed. Ain't afraid of no aches and pain. Lord knows I gotta follow his lead. That's why I sweat when I work. My hands get